as we
Yeah, it's amazing. A couple of things there. One is it's amazing to me what I pick up on these frequencies, and I guess I've got six. All six were post 87. The first one was 89, so there's a pretty good range there. The last one here, that's 2002 when she was born. I've got a grandchild that's 2. I've communicated with telepathically, changing his diaper. And, what I pick up from the frequency of these young people is, I just try to put everything in kind of human terms, is they don't do things that don't align with them. If something doesn't make sense, they don't even consider it. Where we were conditioned, oh, you've got to make a choice one way or the other. They just go, there's got to be a third or a fourth option here. But that is interesting to have watched that frequency rise over this timeline that you're talking about, because that seems to be like the last 2 to 3 years when you're really starting to see this come out. And then the next thing I was going to ask you, but you already started on, was this 40-day period. And before I say that, I just want to add something to that whole movement thing. I love what you said. I love your explanation. And I realize as I'm listening to you that it would only make sense that the first signs we're going to see of the divine love embodying within us and the free energy of the soul being allowed to move at will, unencumbered or unimpeded, will be just simply people being able to go where they want on the earth and live where they want, and that the freedom itself, from an energetic basis, because you really made a good point, people want to stay where they're at. I mean, that's just natural. That's their home. But to have the freedom there and not have the suppression, and that was a very good point which you made in regard to immigration and people that are seeking to be able to exercise their inherent freedom. The 40-day period, and we still have about 10 days to go. I know you covered this on your vlog, but just for those who haven't seen it, and I'd highly recommend your vlog every Monday. But in terms of what can we do, obviously there is solid evidence these last 2 or 3 months that we hit the 51. This great example that you gave, I'm going to have to go back and rewatch it, about the electrons and the whole the way that moves on an atomic level from a quantum perspective, what's observed. But like, this has really come on strong. I mean, even though 2012 to, let's just say, October of this year was certainly unique and gratifying and expanding, and we have a lot of clarity on it, especially in retrospect. This second half, or this new phase, is a totally different language. It's a totally different experience. I mean, it's just wild in a great way. But there's always that element of how we can contribute in this Trinity energy equally to ourselves, our brother, sister, the collective. What can we do? And of course, it always seems to be, the best thing we can do is being true to ourselves. But in terms of this opportunity and the potential that's available in this 40-day period, is there anything that you would point out to people that we can focus on individually within ourselves to contribute equally in this Trinity energy during this 40-day period?
Yes. And I'll just briefly say that when we began, when the beings of light said that with the birth of the new decade, we're going to experience things in collaboration with the company of heaven that had never before been attempted, we had no idea what that meant. And within a matter of 2 weeks, we started experiencing a forced global shutdown for the first time ever. And the beings of light literally said, regardless of outer world circumstances, of what was creating it or what was causing it or whatever, this planetary pause was providing the I am presence of every person to be heard in ways that it had not been before. And we went through several shifts in our cellular structures of our bodies, and our I am presence has now integrated through the divinity within our hearts for every person in a way that it's no longer just that still small voice within, but it's literally a very powerful, intuitive inner guidance if we will ask and if we will take the time to listen. So all of this has prepared us for this 40-day purging process that we're going through. And this 40-day process, it began on November 11th, and we have genetic codes within our DNA that are referred to as the 11, the 1111, and the 111111 genetic codes. And these are special codes. 11 is a sacred geometric number that reflects the transformation of the physical into the divine. So our I Am Presence has been utilizing these codes. And on November 11th every year, we move through this portal alignment where this activation is greatly accelerated. Then we've moved through the November 19th lunar eclipse and the December 3rd solar eclipse, which has greatly accelerated this. Today, the flame of the Immaculate Concept, which is a magnificent crystalline white flame with a Madonna blue radiance holding the divine blueprint for this shift that we're moving through. That's blazing through the earth at this time. Then on December 12th, this is a very powerful time. Now, 12/12 is the day that we celebrate in the outer world the Mother Mary's aspect as the Virgin of Guadalupe. And so it's been building in momentum. That has been building in momentum for over 500 years now. And it was not by chance that that's when Mother Mary began coming, because she was bringing our attention, the Immaculate Concept, to us of the momentum of 12/12. 12/12 is also a geometric code that our I Am Presence encoded in our DNA after our fall from grace. And this code has been holding the Immaculate Concept of a greatly accelerated awakening within us. But that awakening could only occur after we were off the wheel of karma, which took place in 1987, and after we had reached a frequency of vibration that allowed our I Am Presence to activate for our new higher crystalline solar light bodies, the 12 solar strands of our DNA. And that happened actually in August of 2019. It was during the anniversary of harmonic convergence. Our I Am Presence was able to activate those 12 solar strands of our DNA. So on 12/12 that year, and 2019 was a 12-year,
Okay.
2 plus 0 plus 1 plus 9. So it was a 12/12 day, and our solar strands had been activated. So for the very first time, the 12/12 catalyst codes for the awakening of the masses were activated. So those have been building in momentum. So this year, now, because we no longer have the archetypes of the oppressive, manipulative kinds of structures that have held us oppressed and controlled for eons of time, those archetypes are being dismantled and shattered. Now this 12/12 catalyst code is going to greatly accelerate the awakening within all of us, but it is going to greatly help also the awakening of the young people, the holy innocents that have come in since August of 1987. And then this activity is going to be sealed during the solstice on December 20th and 21st. So the most thing that the beings of light can ask or are asking us to do, and I know sometimes we don't feel like we're really getting that guidance, we don't hear it, but your I Am Presence, every person's I Am Presence knows exactly what is going on and is integrating these energies the maximum that we can withstand at a cellular level, according to our being, wherever we are at any given moment. So what has been coming that is most encouraging for us to do is, one thing, self-care. Take care of your body between now and then. Do things that raise your vibration. Eat the highest frequency of food for your body, drink lots of pure water, listen to beautiful music, be in nature, all of the things that nurture, meditate, prayer, be with your loved ones, all you can do to add to the light of the world. The beings of light want us to know that every one of us on this planet is essential. And we all have been a critical facet of this. And I know there's lots of people that if I say to them, you've been instrumental, according to our Father, Mother, God, in creating a critical mass of divine love for the planet, they would think I was a nut, because they don't feel like they're doing that. They are feeling frustrated, they're upset, they're angry, they're disappointed, all of these different things. But the reality is, every prayer, every meditation, every single loving, kind thing we have done for any person, place, condition, or thing on the planet, for any part of life, is woven into this collective consciousness. And that light is infinitely more powerful than our anger and our hatred and our disappointment and our judgment and all of those kinds of things. So all of us have been critical. So pay attention to that. And during these 10 days leading up to the solstice, pay attention to the fact that you are being asked to amplify the love of the world in every single way you can on this planet. Anything you do to invoke the light, anything you do to love another person, to help another person, eliminate judgment, criticism, battling us against them, all of that stuff is part of those old paradigms that are crumbling away and that are being dissolved at this time. Now, there are still going to be people fighting tooth and nail to hold on to their power and to not let humanity be in control of our own lives anymore. But their efforts are going to fail. They have lost the structure and the matrices that have held that kind of behavior in a physical reality. So they're going to fail. So we need to just flood them with love, knowing that they're moving out of that. So the more we can do to add to the love and the light between now and then of course moving into the birth of this new year, knowing that one of the main critical factors of this new year is that there is going to be the initial impulse of what the beings of light are referring to as a generational changing of the guard.
Wow.
And the old guard is going to just gradually lose their ability. I say this often, is that one of my favorite quotes from Buckminster Fuller is that when you're trying to change or create a new paradigm, you don't try to change the existing paradigm. You create a new paradigm and make the old one obsolete. And that's the way these young people are going to be doing it. As they come forth as transformational leaders, they're not going to try and change the existing archetypes that have created so much havoc. They're going to create whole new options, kind of like what we see going on with the energy system and sustainable energy compared to fossil fuels. It isn't that the fossil fuel companies are grateful and are allowing new energies to come in, even though they are, some of them jumping on the bandwagon because they're losing their ability for money if they don't. But it's just, you make the old one obsolete so that we move on. Fossil fuel-based cars are going to become obsolete as we move into electric cars and probably even new kinds of energy that we don't even know about.
Flying cars.
Yes, right. But these kids, these young people, they are so, in my experience, so upset with us and what we've done to this planet and how we've abused this planet at their expense, the way they feel about it, that and that's part of that motivation, that we need to move them into a place of love about that instead of just hatred and anger, because that's count. You take one step forward and two steps back when you're coming from that particular place. But that's going to really make a difference in shifting.
Yeah, that falls in line with when I reawoke 10 years ago, 11 years ago. In the first few months, I was told you're going to have to really bust your butt till you're about 58 or 59. I'll be 60 tomorrow, so we're running a little bit late. But what I was told was that, and it wasn't obviously about me, it was about all of us.
Sure.
Who were in this role, and said that, after this 8 or 9 years, this frequency or energetic mass of these young people is just going to take it over. And I always wondered about that, but you kind of connected the dots there. Another thing one of the several things that you connected the dots on, or a couple of things, is I've never heard anybody say that there was going to be an uptick in the collaboration potential of the kingdom of heaven and us. That's very powerful. And what I've sensed in my own experience just over the last 3 or 4 weeks, I guess after October kind of hit and there was a bit of an integration and you start to get your faculties together, I noticed a couple of things. One thing that I noticed was that I started to have appeals like I did when I was a little kid, and saying, can't the world just be this? Or I want this for the world. So it was a very collective earth in its entirety type of appeal. And the memories came in, oh, you used to do this when you were a kid. The other thing that I noticed that I think is in line with what you're talking about, let's say at a human experiential level, moment by moment, is I've noticed that, because we've always known, ask and it will be given, knock, the door will be open, and so on. And what I've noticed is that when I do this over the last couple of weeks, the response is immediate, like I've never seen before. It just happened to me yesterday. I woke up, my daughter's coming in town. I thought, oh, we just went through the first of the month. And the program started to take over me. It wasn't bad, but I started to, can you take her to dinner? I mean, what are you going to do? And I just let it go. And I didn't ask for anything specific. I just said, look, I'm a little weak right now. I had a rough night in dream state. Obviously, I was very busy. Can you just help me? Can you assist me? I'm here to serve. You know the drill. I mean, the connection's there and so on. But I just, from a human level, said, can you? And sure enough, first of all, a ding went off on my phone. And I don't believe there's any mistakes. And I thought, okay, there's number one. Number two, probably the oldest supporter that we have at Sology, a beautiful brother of mine from New York City, sent me a gift. And I thanked him. And they said, oh, I'm going to send you another one. It's 2 for Tuesday today. And then there was another one. And these are just out of the blue, which would seem like a coincidence, but it was very indicative of what I've experienced over the last 3 or 4 weeks. The immediate reciprocation of the appeal from the heart, hard evidence, and it just seems like it's getting bigger and more frequent as time goes on. So I just wanted to point that out because I know if it's happening to me, it's got to be happening to other people as well. The other thing I was going to ask you too is in regard, I love the way that you present the polarities of our experience and as well as this transition that we're going through. And I love the way that you kind of put it at the end of when you were talking about that a second ago, how basically this is all deconstructing. Almost like, we don't need to talk about it in the manner we have. And I'm just making up words. I'm not putting these in your mouth. I'm just trying to get what I got from it. And at the same time, something that I don't hear a lot of, and I'm going to keep in mind on a personal level, and that is, not to just totally turn away from it, but to actually send those aspects the same love and light and wisdom and everything that you can, all the attributes and virtues of the soul, characteristics, and just send them as we would send them to those things that are on this side of the spectrum that we can relate with more. I think that's, something that needs to be kind of emphasized, because our intentions are more powerful than ever, aren't they?
They absolutely are. And what you were saying earlier about that, about the separation and the duality and the negativity, and looking, it's like when we look at the belief system of this group and the belief system of this group, and they're both on our mailing list and supporting and believing that we're aligned with their belief. And the reality is that in many ways we are. And the reason is because this is a purging time. All of that negativity has gone on forever, but it has to be pushed to the surface to be transmuted into light. We can't just say cancel, and
Right.
eliminate millennia worth of our human miscreations. We have to love that energy back into light. And so the way that's brought to our attention is by people acting out adversely in the outer world in such abhorrent ways that it shocks us out of our complacency, like the horrific things that we saw on January 6th. I had written an article about that. That was such a horrific, shocking event, not only for the United States of America, but for the entire globe as people watch that transpire. In the horror of it all. And what the beings of light said actually occurred is that collective cup of consciousness, that shock, opened people's hearts, cracked people's hearts open to begin invoking light and invoking love in ways that maybe some of them hadn't for a very, very long time. And they said that collective cup of consciousness, with people flooding the United States of America with a new level of love and compassion, kind of like what happened initially with 9/11, that
Right.
kind of a horrible event, that literally the veil of illusion was able to be lifted off the mass consciousness of humanity. And so these things have to be brought to the surface. We're certainly not supposed to stay stuck there and keep doing it over and over. But the beings of light have said we need to not be judgmental. They said you never know what light is glowing in a crude exterior, even though somebody's acting out so horribly and so negatively and so hate-filled. It may be that person is a powerful being that has come in to activate all this and bring it to the surface. Now, what we're learning, though, as we move forward and the rest of humanity shifts, just like you mentioned, the reason that there's this collaboration increase that's never been attempted is not because we're pitiful and the beings of light have decided to help us more. It's because we have raised up in consciousness enough that we have earned the right for this new level of collaboration. There always has to be that balance between what we're sending out and what we're receiving. God won't do it for us, but the more we invoke the light, the more we raise up and can be cooperative collaborators, then they can intervene in new and higher ways as well. So now we know it's time for all of that old stuff to stop. We aren't supposed to stay stuck there and keep doing it. And some people are trapped there, and some people are going to keep doing it, even though maybe they've completed what their original contract was, and now they're supposed to move into the light. They're not ready to do that yet. But eventually, everybody's going to move into the light sooner or later. It's just a matter of timing on all of this. But what is happening is that those structures that sustain that kind of behavior are no longer viable. They are being destroyed and dismantled, and that will be complete with the solstice this year, so that then we can begin calling the holy innocents to the fore to become transformational leaders, to create new archetypes and new social structures that are improving the quality of life for everyone on earth, with win-win situations for everybody. And that's coming. That's
Yeah.
part of the new earth. And that's very much part of what the immaculate concept of the divine plan is, initially really expanding in 2022.
It feels like it absolutely, you can feel it. I mean, regardless of the fluctuations people have or we have as we take on the energy and process it and integrate and so on. I've had so many people come on the show in the last 3 or 4 months that said, this is going on and that's going on. But you know what? There's this underlying thing that everything's just getting better and better and better. And it really feels like it's happening. But not only is it happening, it's happening faster and faster every day, which kind of leads me to what you just talked about, to segue into what I was going to go to next. It was perfect. It was telepathic. In one way or another, since I spoke with you, there was a period of time, I want to say like August to November, that several different people with their own language and their own flavor of intel talked about a massive growth in, let's just say, the energy of light on the earth, or the energy of awareness. Some people described it as, 5 or 6 billion walk-ins or aspects of ourself to expand to near 8 billion souls. But just from an energetic standpoint, using those as metaphors, that there's been this massive influx or expansion of, let's just say, energy of light that may have ended, on or about November. Which leads us to what you were just talking about, the fact that we've reached a level of frequency that we are now in a new field of potential with our collaborators from, let's say, the non-physical world, our angels, our guides, and so on. Like we couldn't do that until we were able to bring in this energy as a team and sustain it, and then begin to expand it and work with it. So I guess what I'm trying to say is what you're talking about is no small feat. Like we're, I think, at a point now where the self-love, the self-worth quotients are going up for everybody. And we've done a heck of a job, I think. I mean, this is like a monumental period that we just went through, not to mention what we're going through. Am I close to your understanding on that? Is there a perception, or do you have any insight on the perception of those soul families and angels and guides and so on, what their perception of us is, how we doing, that type of thing?
Yes, we've had an annual World Congress since the first World Congress in August of 1987. So in August of this year, we had a virtual one because of COVID, but we had a virtual one. And what the World Congress is every year, the Company of Heaven evaluates all the light that has been added to the world by every man, woman, and child throughout the year. And then with that force field of light, they determine what is the greatest need of the hour to benefit humanity. And for this year, it was creating a quantum field of a new frequency of divine love, comprehensive divine love, that would allow the I am presence of every person to anchor and sustain the presence of unity consciousness in every heart flame. Now that was God victoriously accomplished, but the only reason it was able to be accomplished is because of these miraculous shifts that have been taking place in all these years, but specifically since the birth of this new decade. So it allowed these incredible shifts. And what unity consciousness is, we've talked about Christ consciousness and enlightenment and our superconscious mind, and we've had all different terminologies for the different shifts of consciousness. But the beings of light said unity consciousness is literally the essence of our Father, Mother, God, that unifies every facet of life and the whole of creation. And so now this, with the integrated, this could only happen because our I am presence has now been integrated, and these new 12 solar strands and the activation of these 12 catalyst codes, many things have cleared the way for this to happen. But now this new level of consciousness that is in alignment with the divine excuse me, the divine essence of our Father, Mother, God is present in every heart flame, whether people are aware of it or not. So what your friends are describing is the manifestation of that. So what does that mean? How are people acting? Well, they're acting. And I know a lot of people feel like they're walk-ins, but not that there aren't walk-ins, but they feel like, just like you've said, millions have come in. These aren't millions of walk-ins. These are the I am presence now, right. The divinity within those souls taking over so that their fragmented and fear-based human egos no longer have the predominant influence in their bodies. And it seems like a whole new being of light, which it literally is.
Well said. Yeah, because I'm experiencing in myself, I just notice it. And that's another thing I noticed too. It's not like hardcore. It's like every day you see a little bit of a change, and I notice, like, if I try to go into a loop or an old pattern or behavior, first of all, it's very difficult to do. Second of all, it doesn't carry the same charge as it used to. It doesn't give me, a high, or it doesn't give me a frequency bump or anything. It just doesn't work anymore. It's a very natural kind of thing, which is kind of cool. I guess you could use the terms ease and grace. I can't believe we already gone through this show. I feel like I just went through some type of wormhole with you. But I want to ask you one more thing before we get out of here. And certainly if there's anything that you want to offer as well. But Judith Kuzel, she comes on every couple of months, and she had been talking about the white flame the last couple of times she came on. You mentioned the same thing. I think the words are a little bit different. But I never really heard much about the white flame up until just very recently, and you mentioned it, and I thought that was interesting. Is there something you can tell us about what that quality is? What's so distinctive about it in terms of, comparison to some of the other imagery of flame that we might have, been introduced to over the last few years?
Sure. There are 12 solar aspects of deity that reflect different frequencies of sacred fire from the heart of God. And each age, there is a predominant frequency. This Aquarian age, the predominant frequency is going to be the 7th solar aspect, which is the violet flame, which is the perfect balance of the blue flame of our Father God and the pink flame of our Mother God. But the white flame is the 4th solar aspect of deity, and it's very much a part of the purification that's going on now. It's purity, it's hope, it's resurrection, it's renewal, it's restoration, it's ascension, and it is the Immaculate Concept. So these energies are what we're working with right now in this transfiguring transformation that's going on the planet as we move forward in the light. And so it's a
you're like the human hybrid soul equivalent of a zip file. All this information's in this little, and you open it, and it's like a big Jack in the Box. I can't wait, by the way, to go tell my kids they're holy and innocent.
Good. That's perfect. And I just want to comment, because I know that when people feel like all the old archetypes are crumbling away, that they think everything's going to instantaneously be perfect by the 22nd. And of course, by 2022. And of course, that isn't the way it works. We're multidimensional beings. These shifts take place in the realms of cause, and then they filter into the world of effects. And we think of the physical plane as being so real, but the physical plane is actually the least real of all of the dimensions we abide in. And it's the very last frequency to really start reflecting the changes. But we are going to see them. The beings of light have said we are going to see tangible evidence of this in 2022. And they keep saying, pay attention, because you're going to see it manifesting through the young people, through every structure, through politics, through the economic system, through everything. We're going to start seeing heart-based positive shifts as these young people start taking over as transformational leaders in all of these different areas of humanity.
That's going to be it's going to be an amazing year, I'm sure. Absolutely. I'm excited.
Good,
This
me
is
too.
great. I'm going to give my kids a hard time about it though. But let me ask you one thing. How can we support you? I didn't know that you had a nonprofit. You might have mentioned that last time, but sometimes I miss things. I know you have the vlog, but how can we support you? Because I'm sure there's some people that are going to be tuning in. They're tuning in now or on replay that might be interested in checking you out a little bit more.
Well, we do everything we can to offer the information through as many venues as possible for free. So, of course, the vlogs and the newsletters and a lot of the previous interviews and all of those things, videos, are available for free. And we are sustained by love offerings. We do have books and CDs and things like that available. And we have some bracelets and strands of the 12 solar aspects of deity, so people can bring those crystal energies into their experience. So they can go to our website and just look and see what resonates as something that you would like to have or support. And we, of course, have our donations and our love offerings, which we greatly, greatly appreciate.
Right on. Sounds great. Thank you so much for ushering us in, or feathering out 2021, ushering us into 2022. I really appreciate what you and your teams do. And I just want to thank you on a personal level and on behalf of everybody. I don't know anyone that's been hitting it like you have for 50 plus years. That's absolutely amazing. I just have to ask you too, because I just have this level of curiosity. I know I asked you this 6 months ago. There's no way I couldn't have, but wow, what's changed in 6 months? And you've been at this over 50 years. How does it feel to you on a personal level?
Well, it feels, because we've been through these major shifts. And when we began and we went through the 60s, which were, it was a similar time. Excuse me. In that the young people in that day, many of them were using pot and LSD and things like that, mushrooms to awaken and shift consciousness. They weren't supposed to get stuck there and stay there, but they did. Some of them did.
Right.
But many of them had just created this awakening and this shift. And they were, when we talk about releasing the old guard, like the holy innocents are angry with all of the older people that have created this mess, they were talking about don't trust the man. That was the term that they used, meaning anybody over 35 years old, you just didn't trust them, and make love, not war. And, the whole consciousness of creating a love-based world instead of the old patterns. And that was an initial impulse of all of this. Now it's grown and grown until now we're doing quantum shifts of that in this lifetime.
Wow, that's got to be an amazing thing to watch. I'd like to step into your shoes at some point when I get into the Akashic and give him permission just to see how that all went. Thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome, Todd. I'm very grateful for you and all the light you're adding to the world and all of the wonderful presenters and people you have on. It's really a global, unified collaboration that we're all doing together, whether we know each other or conscious of it. Each of us are weaving our light into the magnificent facet of this divine plan.
Yes, it's a beautiful thing. I'll see you down the road, and I hope we can collaborate again in the future. And best of everything. Best wishes to you and all yours and all your endeavors. And thanks again. We love you very much.
Thank you. I love you too.
Bye-bye.